Hey guys, Go Getter Michelle here, and today's video is going to look a little bit different than some of the other content I've put out before. I will still be providing tips and tricks on how to be a go-getter, but this video is just a little bit more personal, which is difficult for me, just to be quite frank, but I know that I have to step out of my comfort zone and challenge myself in order to grow. So with that being said, let's get into it. So I want to start today's video just by saying generally I'm a very optimistic person. I'm enthusiastic. I see the glasses half full. I almost said half empty. That shows you where my mind is right now though. And I guess I just really wanted to make an honest and a little bit vulnerable video that even though overall I still have this disposition, I still believe you can achieve your goals and dreams and that you should see the opportunities in life and focus on that instead of just the challenges, or also see challenges as opportunities to grow. I have been struggling a little bit, particularly in my mindset area. And so what I did is I actually went back to my own content because I don't want to be a hypocrite. I want to listen to my own advice, and looking back at what I wrote about a go-getter mindset, okay, taking responsibility for your life, your actions, your attitude, like check. I have that down. I know that it's up to me to change my mindset if I'm in a bad headspace. But then I went to my other video about how to change your mindset. I'll link both of those below because I highly recommend you take a look at them. And as I was going through the video about how to change your mindset, the first thing I talk about before I even get into the specific steps you can take to change your mindset is just believing in yourself. And so that's much easier said than done. And I don't think I really focused on it enough in that video because I say you should believe in yourself and believe that you can be a go-getter. But what happens if you're stuck in that you're not really believing in yourself and it's hard to nix the negative self-talk? Like you feel like you can't move past that step. And so that's what I want to talk about today. I wouldn't even say I'm stuck in negative self-talk exactly, but kind of similarly just dealing with some self-doubt. So I'm very grateful that generally I believe in myself. Everyone has weaknesses, but generally speaking, having the confidence to try something new or to speak up has not been my main weakness. However, I think we all go through days or seasons where we doubt ourselves, and I honestly yesterday was just feeling in a little bit of a funk, and even to be honest, right now I don't feel, I'm like almost getting choked up here. To be honest, I don't feel completely myself. I still feel optimistic about life and about this channel, but things are sometimes just a little difficult, and I think it's okay. And a mark of a true go-getter, someone who has balance in their life, to admit that instead of just running themselves ragged and ignoring their emotions, which I have been known to do, as some people have known me as #NoEmotionsMichelle at one point in my life. But with that being said, since I'm so optimistic and I don't like feeling negative emotions, I really hate feeling down, and I try and fight it. I try and pretend that I'm not even down, like to myself too, not just to other people. I don't like being in that kind of mindset. And you know what? That's just not life. That's not the reality. You can't be happy every single moment of every single day of your life, even though I try to be. And so yesterday I was in a funk, and instead of staying in that funk, I want to be a go-getter and take control of my mindset and my attitude and try and get out of that funk. And sometimes, if it's something very serious, that's not going to be doable, but in some cases, like with my attitude yesterday, it is doable. So I want to give you guys some tips when you're feeling down in the dumps or doubting yourself. I feel like that intro was very emotional, and I want none of that. I want to move on to the facts and solutions. That's just my personality. I don't want to wallow in my sadness or funk. So here are the steps of how to get out of a funk. Step number 1 is to admit that you're in a funk. This one is particularly difficult for me because I want to ignore any negative emotions, plow through and just say, I'm fine, it's fine. But when I've done that, I've actually felt worse for longer because once you admit that you're not feeling the best, you can then take steps and be proactive to hopefully change the way you're feeling. But if you don't admit it to anyone else, most importantly, if you don't even admit it to yourself, it's going to be hard to move past it. And one really important note I want to make about feeling like you're in a funk is something that I learned from Dr. Warner, a professor that I had at JMU, and he taught our class to have no bad days, but bad moments. Now, I know some people may think like, oh, that's too positive, it's unrealistic. What about everything you've been saying about like being in a bad mood and admitting that you're in a bad mood? That all still holds true. But he said that bad days are reserved for a death of a family member, a loss of a job, maybe a car accident, I don't know, something very serious and traumatic. Whereas when you have a bad moment, a bad interaction with a coworker, an upsetting situation with a child, something that goes wrong with your computer, all of those are bad moments. Feeling like I was in a funk yesterday was a bad moment of my day, and I worked to get out of that. And the first thing is admitting that you're having that bad moment, that you're feeling like you're in a funk, so you can move past it. I know some people might think this is toxic positivity, but I'm not saying to ignore the bad feelings, accept them, but then work to move past them. Step number 2 is simple. Turn on a song. Generally, I would suggest something upbeat, positive, inspirational, something that will make you feel powerful and good. But if you want to wallow in your funk for a little bit, you can put on a more sad song, but I suggest for getting out of the funk, instead of wallowing in it, put on something that makes you happy, that has a good beat. And that kind of leads into step number 3, cry. So those might seem to contradict each other, but yesterday, and it is so difficult for me to admit this, I was listening to Moana, How Far I'll Go, because I wanted to pump myself up. I felt like I was in a bit of a funk, and when listening to that positive and upbeat song, I began to cry. And honestly, it felt so good. Crying releases tension and emotion that you've been holding inside, and it's a natural reaction of human beings since the beginning of time. So even though I'm saying don't wallow in it, crying can actually help you move past some of those negative feelings. Tip number 3 is to move your body. So whether that means exercising to get those endorphins flowing, taking a walk around the block, or simply just getting up out of your desk chair, walking around the office and getting back down, small amounts of movement can really make you feel better. And this tip can be really hard because when you're in a funk or some kind of bad mood, you're going to be less motivated and less likely to want to work out. And that's when you know you really need it. But if you still don't want to work out, like I had already done an intense workout in the morning, I didn't need to have a 2-a-day in the evening or afternoon. Another option is just going for a drive, so that's still moving. You're moving and taking your body somewhere else just for a change of scenery. Tip number 5 is seek emotional support from a family member or a close friend, maybe even a colleague. Now, all the tips that I shared so far have been things that you can do by yourself and things that I'd prefer to do by myself, but if you still feel like after moving your body and listening to your song, maybe even crying it out, you still feel pretty low and you need someone to verbalize your feelings with, give someone a call, a FaceTime. You could even send them a text, but I'd really recommend FaceTiming or calling someone. It can be so relieving to just get some of the negative thoughts out of your mind into the open, and then you won't feel like you're holding them inside and that they're weighing you down as much. However, I want to caution you to pick someone for emotional support who is more positive and will help pull you out of that funk. Yes, you want someone to validate you and understand why you're feeling the way that you're feeling, but you don't want someone who's going to dwell on the negative. You want someone who's going to pull you up. And the last tip that I have is just sleep, and in particular, going to bed early. Sometimes your body is just crying out for not even emotional rest, but also physical, mental rest. And that can be a great way to get you out of the funk. And even though I said I don't like to believe in bad days except for really extreme situations, if this meh feeling has been somewhat persistent and you're just ready for a fresh start, a new day, go to sleep early, maybe read a book before bed or watch your favorite movie. Don't go scrolling on your phone. That's something else I forgot to mention. After tip number 5, after you call that trusted friend or family member, if you need some emotional support, put your phone away and try not to touch it for the rest of the day, because honestly, so much stuff we see, whether that's comparing ourselves to people on Instagram or an email coming through, it can stress us out and just make our bad mood or this meh funk feeling even worse. So go to bed early, just sleep off the day, and I promise you, you will wake up feeling much better and refreshed after getting a good night's sleep. So right now I actually look like I'm about to get ready for a good night's sleep because I almost never wear my glasses except right before bed or when I'm in the midst of editing a video and staring at my computer for a long time. And while I was editing this video, I realized there's a lot of content in there. So I'm going to be splitting it up into part 1 and part 2. So next week you guys can look forward to a video about overcoming imposter syndrome, or really overcoming your self-doubt. And so I'm excited that we'll be diving deeper into that next week, but hopefully this information about getting out of a funk has been really helpful for you. And if you've used any of those tips before, or if you have different tips of your own, please share those in the comments below. I think they'd be really helpful for everyone as we go through different seasons or bad moments and want to come out of those with a go-getter, positive attitude. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos, and I'll see you all next week.